So what factor contributes to family conflict? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all over the world about parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds, child development, and education, all through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're talking about that one thing that you've got to watch out for. Otherwise, you might be creating family conflict. Does it sometimes seem like family conflict comes out of nowhere? That can happen because of this one factor that we're going to be talking about in this video. So in this video, we're going to talk a little bit about conflict, what that looks like, the one factor that gets in the way, and I'm going to share with you a cycle for success that you can keep in mind so that you don't experience family conflict next. You wake up in the morning, you're so excited. It's going to be a great day today. You've got plans. You're going to get everything cleaned up, do fun things with the children. Check, 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 right? Then you go into your 15-year-old son's bedroom and you say, hey, it's time to get up. We've got all these fun things happening today. Nothing. Get up, you say. We have lots of fun things to do today. Come on. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's time to rise and shine. Rolls over. Doesn't talk to you. Okay, now what do? You had this expectation. You wanted everyone to be able to get up and have a fun day. You wanted to do cool things, not just deal with behaviors all day. And you really had some good emotion tied to that expectation too, so that you could follow through and have fun the entire day. Well, when that child rolls over, ignores you, disregards you, at that point, if your hopes and dreams, your emotions are tied to that expectation, it all starts to fall apart. And now you experience frustration, maybe hurt, maybe you're offended, maybe you even take it personally because it's just so rude and ungrateful. At that point, you start pushing, forcing, getting grumpy so that maybe your child will start to see that they need to change their behavior. When the grumpiness doesn't work, forget it. Now you know they really don't care. You're thinking bad thoughts about your child. Watch out for that. Villainous things are coming through your mind. Now you're getting angry to really push the issue because you're not going to allow the child to ruin the day again. Then you get angry. Maybe the behavior changes. Maybe it doesn't, but now you feel bad. Your disconnection with the child is real. You can feel it. They now, whether they're doing whatever it was, like waking up or not, don't really like you that much because they can't trust you very much because you got emotional at them to solve your problem because you didn't know anything else to do. So now you have guilt and regret. But you're a motivated parent. You know you're supposed to do a good job and train your children, so you try again. So now comes, it's time to take your dish over, or it's time to do your daily chore, or no, you can't go to the party. You know, fill in the blank. There's going to be another scenario, and you're going to have an expectation where you assume that that child will actually listen to you and do what is required. So we're talking right now about that one factor. What is that one factor? It's called the expectation trap. I actually have an entire video on this channel dedicated to just the expectation trap and the cycle for success. We're going to go into a little bit of detail about those things here, but I do want you to know there is a full-length class for those on another channel on this video. So what happens in the expectation trap? When your emotions are tied to this expectation, you're basically telling yourself, I have to get what I want. I will not be okay if I don't get what I want. When you do that, your thoughts start to trap you. You start thinking it must be a certain way, and if not, you don't have a plan for what to do otherwise. In fact, many people who fall into expectation traps do not have skills. They do not have plans for what to do if the expectation expectation is not met. Now, are expectations all bad? Absolutely not. We'll talk about how expectations can be good, but first let's just examine what happens when we are trapping ourselves. Suddenly we have a feeling, then we have a thought that's not a healthy thought because we're already trapped by that type of expectation that's really emotionally rooted. So then after that, when more and more things go wrong, we just get more and more out of control. We could actually be creating the family conflict. Many times parents start power struggles with their children, or at the very least, at one signal of a power struggle, they dive in and they start power struggling too. They think that if they get grumpy, the child will get a cue. When the child doesn't get a cue, they get angry in order to really force the issue. At that point, the relationship is damaged, the day is ruined. Even if you were going to have some fun, it's just never quite the same again. But what about that expectation? Is it always bad or could it be good? Let's talk about how it can be good. So if you've subscribed to this channel already, then you know that here at Teaching Self-Government, I talk about giving instructions and expecting children to follow through on their instructions. In fact, I have 4 basic skills that I teach. They are following instructions, accepting no answers and criticism, accepting consequences, and disagreeing appropriately. If a person learns the steps to these 4 basic skills, that takes care of 99% of their behavioral problems if the parent is consistent enough to use the 5 teaching styles to help follow through with the teaching to help the child get self-governed and back on course. And if the parent is self-governing too. So that's why this channel is called the Teaching Self-Government channel, because it's all about self-government and creating those great choices for ourselves. So when a person is self-governed, they do have expectations. In fact, highly motivated people who accomplish great things and are great leaders always start with having expectation. The difference about the expectation for a self-government family is that it's not the root of our security, and our emotions aren't so invested in it that we can't ever see a moment where it might go wrong and how to handle it. On the contrary, it's the picture of a possibility, and we expect that there'll be moments where things go off, but we're prepared with the skills and principles we need to handle those problems and still preserve good, strong family relationships. If your expectation is the picture of a possibility and you're open to things not going right, then you can find yourself in what I call the cycle for success. So the cycle for success starts with an expectation, that picture of a possibility. The parent then gives the child the picture of the possibility by doing some good, healthy pre-teaching, preparing that person to actually use their skills. Let's say one of those skills is following instructions. That's the skill that they would need in order to wake up in the morning. So I might come into my child's room, do a pre-teach about the steps they need to remember for following instructions. Then I would give them the instruction to actually wake up and get out of the bed. Now, ideally, the child says okay and does that. And 9 times out of 10, or maybe we should say 99 out of 100, that child is actually going to follow the instruction, especially if they've been pre-taught and they see the point to it. But let's say this particular day, they are just really, really tired. So you give the instruction, but still they don't follow it and nothing happens. Now what are you going to do? Well, now you need to be prepared to connect to the person. Go in for the relationship, not guilt, not manipulation, not hugs and cuddles, but just look at the person. Keep a calm face, voice, and body, and do a really great, effective correction. So in my TSG parenting course and other resources about parenting, I teach how to do a 7-step correction. So I'm not going to go into that now, but really do an effective parenting interaction, an effective correction. You should feel closer to your child during and after a correction than you even did before if your tone's right and if you maintain a good predictable structure so that they have less anxiety. So if you do that correction, the problem should actually now get solved. And now they'll accept their consequences because you're a self-government family, so they get the opportunity to accept consequences so that they can learn cause and effect. And then you're going to just repeat this process. You'll praise them afterward. You'll praise them for doing the teaching moment with you, and then you'll repeat, and it will be a positive moment instead of a draining moment. It will increase connection instead of increasing family conflict, which happens every time you're in that expectation trap. Now, I mentioned you may want to see the full video, the expectation trap versus the cycle for success. You can absolutely see that on this channel. But if you really want to get the most help on that cycle for success, I recommend the TSG Parenting course. It's on my website, teachingselfgovernment.com. So go to teachingselfgovernment.com, look for the TSG Parenting course, and you are on the road for self-government at your house.